Hi there, and welcome to Busternet as we continue to take a look at training in Football Manager in our training series with Torino. In the first few episodes, like episode 1 right through to 3, I was looking at facilities, how to get 5-star coaching. I covered something on CA, PA, and training schedules, and I dabbled a bit on personalities. On today's show, we're going to take a deeper look at tutoring before we go on to the next stage, which is trying to build a legacy system. There are a whole host of personalities in the game. Now, what we want to do when we start training our players or looking for young players is to make sure that they fit at least, I like to try and fit them into 5 categories, or 6 rather. I've yet to find anybody who's a model citizen or a model professional, but there are enough professionals, perfectionists, resolute, and fairly professional players in the game. The easiest and the most common one is resolute. One thing they all have in common is professionalism. Now, you want players to have a high degree of professionalism and some ambition. Now, when you combine these two together, they generally perform really well in training. So, what you want to do is you want to get these players into your team or your squad, and where your players have weaker personalities, what you want to do is you want to get players with solid training personalities, so tutor them. Here we have my first team player Pontus Janssen, who's a resolute. So he makes a very good tutor. Now, who am I going to try and tutor? I can't do it to Andre Polsano because Polsano actually has a better personality professional, but he can work really well with Federico Gerardo, who's a wingback on the left. Now, sometimes if they're not playing in the same position, it can be a challenging problem for them to face. When you invite them in to talk, there are two options. The first option here basically transfers everything, PPMs and personality. Now, sometimes you don't want a player to come with bad PPM, so you give him the second option. So we don't want, so you choose the second option when you just want a personality transfer. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but this is one heck of a way to try it out. Here we have Isa Mandi. In this, I want him to transfer his personality and his PPMs across. So we have a player here, Alessio Benedetti, whose balanced personality, the resolute is definitely a lot better. So we're going to ask Mandi to tutor Benedetti, and we're going to choose the first option and transfer lock, stock, and smoking barrels to him. Everything goes. Hopefully, personality and PPMs get transferred along. So this is a thing that you can do in order for you to improve the personality of your squad for training so that they can get you better results when it comes to their attribute development. So with Torino, we haven't been focused on tutoring since I started this game, and I've just been only concerned about results. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to slowly transplant these Torino players with a new generation of Torino players. It's going to take us a while. That's why we call this a training series. And we're going to focus on only 6 personalities, and we're going to try and bring these kind of players through to the club, or we're going to tutor. All right, so we are already like a couple of weeks into preseason, and this is the time when I've gone to some of my players and I've given them PPM. So I don't want Polsano to dive into tackle. I want Paragini to try and beat the offside trap, and I would like Marco Chiosa to mark opponents tightly. So we've gotten some of the PPMs up and we're away, and we've gotten some of our players tutoring other players. So that's all good and dandy, and let's now worry about some other players. Now, Lucas Boyo, 23 years old, can't fit into my first team squad, 3 stars, and after a while, you're gonna have to make a decision. There are gonna be two kinds of players. You're gonna want to keep the very, very best to yourself until the age of 21, and that's your goal. You do not want to loan anybody before they're 21. You want to loan because if you bring in a player who's 15, you gotta give him about 4 seasons to stay in the club, get his homegrown status. I mean, that's for England. I generally like to keep my players in the club for at least 4 seasons when I bring them in. And then once they become domesticated, then I will look at whether they should be playing the first team or whether they should be going on loan. Lucas Boyo, well, when I joined the club, he was already here. And since even back then I wasn't too convinced about him, so he's been on loan, and honestly, we've already given them an offer to take him off our hands for 400,000. So you're gonna have to make these kind of decisions. Salvador Salvador Ichazo, another useful player that I brought in last time, has gone on loan. And other players, well, we're gonna have to send them on loan to Sasa Lukic. Is a 22-year-old player that I brought in when he was a youngster. He was in the club for a while, and he spent 3 seasons here, but he's already on loan now. He spent his early season developing in other clubs, and he's not going to fulfill my homegrown rule, I think, because he's a non-EU player as well. So Sasa Lukic, we've been developing him, hoping that he gets better, but he's not good enough to crack into the first team squad, so he's gone on loan as well. And these are all players that eventually are going to get sold off. We've got other players here. If they can't crack into your first team, put them on loan. Don't keep them in your club. So you gotta loan them off. If nobody wants them, then yeah, transfer list them. Like Filippo Berardi, he's never gonna play for me, so we've transfer listed him. Some of the players they don't even get a chance to get a contract, like Federico Zanuni, he's not gonna get a contract. Then we've got Antonio Barreca. Now, when I joined the club, he was already here. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's on and off, on and off. You know, he was in the club. He fulfilled the first 4 years. Then I put him on loan with other clubs to see how well he does. He did play for someone in the championship for Leeds. He turned out a 7.24. I was pretty impressed with him. Those that are good enough, and there should be not more than 4 or 5. If you can manage three, I think that's good. Bring them into the first team squad and give them matches to play. You have to make that kind of a decision if you want to develop them into superstars. Otherwise, you have to wait. And it's not altogether that bad. Let me show you an example of a player. Z Gomez, in my current save, he joined me straight out of Benfica for 3 seasons. He did okay. But in FM 16, Z Gomez did not play for me until he was 23. I think it was 22 or 23. And it took him a while because I had to put him on loan. I wasn't entirely convinced. Another player who had to go on loan for me was Vittorio Paragini. This is another player who had to. He was with me for 3 years. I joined the club. The moment I wasn't convinced, I put him on loan. He was on loan for 2 seasons, but then he came back and he's become a mainstay of our side. He's banging in goals. So sometimes players, when they go on loan, they actually get a chance to play and they improve. Whatever it is, a player needs play time. Make sure he gets that, whether it's with your club or with another club. And if he goes to another club, if you really value this player and you think he's got a lot of potential, then give him a chance. Make sure he plays for a really good team. Don't just blindly accept um, contracts or loans. You want to make sure they get first team action. You want to make sure that there's a penalty for them not being used, like unused fee. Unused there's an unused fee. If they don't get used, make sure that club pays, like, pays a lot more when they don't use them. So penalize them for not using them. So they have no choice but to use them. Sometimes I have unused fees and I have an unused fee clause. And if they don't use them, they pay me their salary, and if they use them, they don't have to pay their salary. So I have done these kind of contracts before where it is prohibitive for them to keep them on the bench. So, and I have clubs that have accepted these kind of players. So you want to give your players as much of a chance to play, and this is very, very important for long-term player development. Planning like this, you want to make sure that you have a tactic in mind. You just can't go out there and just do it willy-nilly. Having a good plan is really important. This allows you to anticipate shortfalls in your system. Players who are getting old and on in age, you want to find replacements for them. Younger players who can't fit into your squad, you want to send them on loan. You want to optimize your size of your squad, which we'll cover in later episodes. But one thing you need to remember about tutoring, it's a huge advantage for the human manager. Why? Because a good personality can influence the way your CA, the player's current ability develops. If he has a shitty personality, you take two boys, one with a professional attitude and one with a jovial attitude. The guy with the professional attitude is going to see faster gains in CA than the guy who's got a jovial attitude. So this happens to be an even bigger exploit than making yourself into a five-star coach. So yeah, there are so many little tricks in this game to get ahead, and this is one of those. So if you want to tutor, there are certain things you want to do. You want to make sure that your players have a senior position in the squad. Uh, a first team player can't tutor another first team player. Secondly, they should ideally be playing the same position. This is going to be important. And when it comes to PPMs, I know there are PPMs in the game, and I recommend certain PPMs, but don't go overboard in PPMs. You don't need to. There are certain PPMs you want players to have. Like your playmakers, you want them to dictate tempo. If they have the pass on them, then killer pass. For some defenders who might have very high aggression, you may not want them diving into tackles. So you need to pick your PPMs accordingly. And if the ass man comes to you, tells you everybody needs a PPM, ignore him. Okay, that's the most important advice I'm going to give you. Be careful with PPMs. Don't go overboard with PPMs. And most importantly, PPMs need to be matched, right? So if you want to create an Andre Pirlo in your side, just because you have one playing like that doesn't mean everybody else is going to turn out like that. They actually need attributes to use those PPMs too. And they have to be good attributes. Like, if you want somebody to play the killer ball, then he needs passing vision and decisions. If he doesn't have any of the above, then why would you want to try giving him a killer ball PPM? So on this show, we've covered lots of things. We've covered how you tutor players. One other thing about tutoring, you want to make sure that the personality is always senior and playing in the right position. With PPMs, you always want to watch out for the downsides. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of the FM Training Series. We're going to be covering even more on the next show, and I hope you can join me then. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me on Twitter at Busternet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I'd like to thank all my patrons for their continued support of this channel. It makes these kinds of videos possible. You guys take care and have a good one. Bye bye.